Hello again and welcome to another engine refurbishment video featuring Boca bearings. Now today's engine is a classic engine from Fox Manufacturing. Now Duke Fox was a very innovative engine designer and manufacturer and designed and manufactured many different styles of engines. Today's engine is a Fox 25 BBRC that dates back to 1993. It's an engine that I purchased and is in need of some TLC to include cleaning and a bearing replacement. So I'm going to throw it to the table. We'll take a quick look at this engine before I disassemble it, and then I'll disassemble it, replace the bearings, and get this thing all cleaned up and ready to go again. So here is this nice little Fox 25 BBRC engine that I'm going to be working on today. Now this engine is unique in that it has a different construction methodology than many types of glow engines. This has a removable head, obviously, but it also, this whole sleeve cylinder section here has a parting line here and it comes off. So it's held in place by these 4 long screws, which makes it unique because then the sleeve is press fit inside this part of the casting. So I'll be disassembling this engine and getting it ready to replace the bearings, but it'll be pretty simple because all I gotta do is take these 4 screws out, take this whole top part off, the rear cover, and then basically it's just gonna come right apart. Now, Fox engines were always notorious or famous, however you want to say it, for either having a tilt down or a tilt up muffler. As you can see, this is a tilt down muffler, but they also had, tilt up mufflers. I'm not exactly sure I understand why they did that, because 98% of everybody else just has a muffler that just goes out straight. I know that putting it on a test stand like this sometimes can be a little bit of a challenge, but this has got a tilt down muffler which might clean up as well also. I'm not sure how well this is actually going to get a different color after cleaning or not, because some of their engines were just a little bit older looking anyway, and they didn't have that nice bright finish. But time will tell, and let's get it going here and see what it looks like. Okay, I've got this engine disassembled and almost ready to take the bearings out, but I wanted to just show you. Here's that interesting cylinder head assembly. So here's the head with its very long screws, and it has this button that the glow plug sits in also. So it's just a ringed head portion and this little glow plug inset, and the combustion chamber top is just this little replaceable button. So that's a really cool feature. And again, here's that sleeve that's press fit in there. I won't be taking this thing out. Fortunately, I was able to get both the gasket that came here and the gasket on the rear cover off without damage, so I'll be able to reuse those. Here's this piston. So this is a rather used well-used piston, and this is not ABC or aluminum at all. It's a cast iron piston riding inside of a steel sleeve. So one of the things I'm going to make sure I do not do is I'm not going to clean this piston up at all. And I'll probably put this in there, but this carbon buildup or caster residue buildup on this piston is one of the things that actually helps create the sealing properties in the compression. So I'm going to not clean this up. I may put it in the ultrasonic, but I'm not going to do any kind of scrubbing on the piston at all. And I'm not going to take the connecting rod off, because I don't think that's necessary. But we will get all these things cleaned up here. So this is the crankshaft or the crankcase that I'll be taking the bearings out of. And you can see that's in pretty rough shape. So even though this is a used engine, it's also interesting to note that in this day and age, when these engines were made, they were all tested at the factory. Every single engine, as far as I know, was test run at the factory and preliminarily set. So what that means is that they had some caster residue in them, and if you happen to buy an engine back in those days, brand new, and then let it sit for 20 or 30 years untouched, it's going to be stiff. And it's going to feel like it needs bearings, and maybe it does, but maybe it really doesn't. This is a used engine, so obviously I'm going to be replacing the bearings, but just so you know, if you happen to come across a new in box Fox engine from many years ago and it feels stiff, it may not really have bad bearings. It's just that it was run at the factory, and when caster oil dries, and people call it gumming up, it's actually forming a protective barrier against rust on those bearings, so it's actually a good thing. But let's go ahead and get these parts in the cleaner. Not this, because I'm going to go ahead and take the crankshaft out of here after I clean all these parts off the table. Okay, so here I've got the table cleaned up, and I've got just a crankcase and crankshaft installed in here. I haven't done any oiling or anything. It seems like there's caster residue in there, so what I want to do here is just go ahead and put my glove on and start heating this crankcase up, and we'll get these bearings out. It'll be interesting to see how this caster liquefies with the application of heat. Crankcase is definitely freeing up some, or the crankshaft. Let's see if that's enough to get. The first couple of taps are always like, how much force is it going to take to actually get that out? So our crankshaft came out here without the bearing on it, which was not what I was hoping to have happen, because now I'm going to have to use a different tool here from the Boca Bearings miniature bearing removal set to get that rear bearing out. Let's get this front bearing out here. So there's our front bearing out, and now I'm going to need to see if the tool I've got right here is going to be the right size to get this bearing out. And it's not, so I'm going to have to go and see if I've got a smaller bearing removal tool from my puller set and use that on this. Okay, so fortunately there was a smaller chuck set here, and I've already got it kind of pre-expanded to go in here and fit inside the inner race of this engine. All I really have to do is just fully expand it now and lock it in place. Hopefully that's going to lock it in place. I don't know that I've ever used this particular chuck here at all. So these chucks from Boca are actually designed to pull the bearing out, but in my application you can't really just simply pull these bearings out. You have to kind of pound them out, which is less than ideal, but well, I don't know if this one's going to work or not because it's really kind of loose. It's like I've expanded it all there is, and this one's a rather small one. So I'm hoping that between heating it up and using this, I can tap it out without breaking the chuck. So I'm just going to have to really heat this guy up and give this a shot and see how successful we're going to be here. Let's see if that's enough to just lightly tap this thing out of here. Nope. Unfortunately, the chuck came out without the bearing. That's not a good thing. I'm wondering if I can even get this thing to expand anymore to... Might be at a little bit of an impasse here. It seems like it's in the right spot. Just gonna have to really expand this thing some more and see if I can just get any more grip or just heat this thing up a lot more. And that's as much as it's gonna expand right there. Maybe that'll be enough. We'll have to see. I'm gonna heat this thing up again. It feels a little bit more firm in there, perhaps. heated that up some more here. Let's just, thankfully, that bearing did come out. Boy, that was a tough one. You can see the bearings on here. I'm sure this thing isn't too hot. Isn't warm at all. Okay, thankfully that decided to work, because I wasn't really sure what my other options were going to be other than heat that case up and slam it down to get it to come out. I'm sure that bearing's quite warm. So there you have it. There are the two bearings that came out of this engine. Now I do have a set from Boca, but this rear bearing really looks interesting. So I haven't opened up that set of bearings here yet, but what I want to do here is get these items cleaned up first, and then we'll move on to the bearing replacement. So this is the front bearing. Looks a lot different than this rear bearing for some reason. Like the balls on this rear bearing there's more of them and they're much smaller. So this will be interesting. Okay, so I just finished cleaning these parts up. I'm not quite ready to install the bearings yet because I wanted to show these parts, and I have to say that I am quite impressed with how this turned out after coming out of the ultrasonic cleaner. It looks like a completely different engine. So whatever residue was on these parts that made them look darker, I mean, boy, they certainly look like they came right out of the factory now. I mean, this is really kind of nice. I'm super excited about this restoration of this engine now. Even the carb looks brand new. And at first when I brought it out of the ultrasonic cleaner, I thought, wow, there's a divot, there's damage to this carb. But that's not damage. That little cutout is there for clearance for the crankshaft, which is kind of an interesting feature. Now, the crankshaft here is very nice because Fox always made some really unusual and complicated looking crankshafts, and this one is one of those also. So this is really cool. So let me go ahead and put these parts in the bin and only keep these guys out here so that I can go ahead and do this bearing installation. Okay, so here we are, actually to the meat and potatoes of this video, which is the bearing installation. The removal was fun and interesting, but the bearing installation is really the icing on the cake. Now, when I'm doing bearing installations like this, I'm always using Boca Bearings Lightning Lube Road Power as my reinstallation or my reassembly and bearing installation lubricant. And I always just kind of squirt some in this jar, just because it gives my finger a chance to do the actual application of the lubricant of these bearing mating surfaces. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of slather some of this all over the inside, anywhere my finger can fit. Actually, everything's going to need it when it goes back together here later today. So let's get this crankshaft all lubed up and ready to go. Also, I'm super excited about this engine. I really didn't expect it to turn out as clean looking after coming out of the ultrasonic as it did. So this has really got me super excited now. Let me go ahead and get my block here in position for the installation of these bearings. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at these. I already kind of showed you these original bearings that came out of it, and I've discovered something here. The bearing kit that I have here from Boca for this engine, it's the Fox 19 and the 25, is an ENK-183. Now this kit includes, both of these bearings are R6s, but one is a special R6, which is this rear main bearing. And it's special because its designation is SR6-5, which means that it's got a larger ID for that crankshaft and then probably more balls. I'd have to go and look up exactly and see if that annotation tells me exactly what it is, but I know the S stands for special, and it might even actually be a special width too. Because a lot of times a special designation is either a major difference in the thickness, the width, or, you know, the ID of that bearing. So let's make sure I don't forget which ones are which. So rear bearing here, I'm going to go ahead and lubricate this thing all up as best I can. Same thing with this front bearing. Everything else is ready to go. Don't really need these bearings here now. So I'll always just kind of slide this rear bearing on the crankshaft first and get it on there, and it fits beautifully. And then I'll be installing the front bearing first, as always, because then it acts as a centering mechanism for the rear bearing and crankshaft. So all of these things are lubed up. Let me wipe my fingers off real quick here, get my glove on, and let's start heating this case up. Let's see if that's enough. So this is an open shield on both sides, which is just exactly how those bearings came out, which is curious to me in a way. That one's not looking like it's all sitting out that straight. Oops. Definitely want that to be sitting as straight as possible here. That bearing is seated nicely. Now let's just see how this one's going to go in here. Feels like it's fully seated, and it is. And there you have it. A beautiful installation to revitalize this new, like new Fox 25 BBRC engine.